Join live Africans United, Know Thyself, Black Power Radio, where we discuss solutions to issues affecting black communities locally, nationally, and globally. With hosts Brother Escents Devine and Brother Ausar Amen, each and every Sunday right here on Oak 93.5.
Peace to the elders, the ancestral giants. Peace to kings, queens, and royal families all over. And peace to you, brothers and sisters. You tune into Oak 93.5 FM, Africans United, Know Thyself, Black Power Radio, where ancient wisdom meets modern truth. This is more than conversation, this is elevation. Today's topic is Africa, the motherland, a return to greatness. I'm joined by the founder, director of KCSSU, the Honorable Brother Ausar Amen.
Anakasar, a BB for Hodier, African liberation, black liberation, African power, black power, for every black man, woman, and child on the planet. We are the original people. I am the original man. I am a son of Africa. Peace to the listening audience out there.
And I'm, of course, Escents Devine, and we're joined by a friend of ours, the great engineer, Brother Amaechi.
Good morning, everybody. Thank you for listening in. Like he said, we are going to discuss Africa, and you will be very entertained. Please, thank you for tuning in.
Right. And today we will speak plainly about our history, our challenges, our futures, about the Agenda 2063, the AES, different coups that's happening, and so on. Our aim is honest, constructive dialogue, rooted in truth, justice, and righteous actions. And may every listener leave with a clearer sense of their role in Africa's ongoing renaissance. And let's start at the African Union, which is a continental body consisting of 55 member states that make up the countries of the African continent. The AU adopted Agenda 2063 on January 31st, 2015. As a visionary blueprint guiding Africa's development for the next 50 years, it seeks to address the continent challenges and unlock its full potential. Brother Matt, this is an ambitious plan. This ambitious plan was launched, and in your view, has Africa made meaningful progress toward achieving the goals of Agenda 2063?
Well, thank you for that question. I would say that yes and no. Yes, because so many good things are beginning to happen now, and some of it is rooted on this particular agenda. But also, there are some areas where it seems as though Africa is moving backwards. We are going to get into all this when we actually get into the mainstream of this particular radio show today. But yes, the goals that were laid out are very, very good, insightful goals. And the movement to free Africa of colonialism is at the forefront right now. And that's mainly because of some of the questions that have been raised by Burkina Faso and some other African countries. Recently, there has been a lot of coups going on in Africa, particularly in the West Africa area, and where they call the coup belt in Africa. This coup belt is actually raising some questions and bringing up some good issues, and most of it is related to this particular question. What's happening is that a lot of African people, particularly the youths, they are beginning to rise up to say that enough is enough. We are not going to have it like we have been having it lately. Take, for instance, in Cameroon, just within the past 3 days, there has been a lot of agitation where one man who is 92 years old ran for president again with the hope of leading Cameroon for the next 6 years. 92 years old. He has been in power for 42 years. He came into power in 1942. I mean, in 1982,
Okay.
he came to power. And if you calculate from that time to now, that's over 40 years. This basically flies in the face of those people who are members of that particular country, who are citizens of that country. How can one man be ruling? Some people were born to meet him as their president, and they are 40 something years old, and he's still their president, and he still wants to continue to be the president. This is not what this particular AU goals is trying to achieve. The AU goals wants to make Africa free of colonialism. It wants to make Africans cooperate with each other, the African states. It wants to coordinate and intensify cooperation and achieve better life for Africans. This particular individual that I mentioned now, it has been leaning towards France throughout his leadership in Cameroon. He basically represents the interests of Cameroon, not the interests of Cameroonians. I mean, the interests of France, not the interests of Cameroonians. And he wants to continue this. And Cameroonians have rejected him, and they have said, no, enough is enough. And so that is the reason why there is a lot of rioting and demonstrations going on there now. But let's get into this more later as we go forward.
Yeah, we definitely get into more about the coups, brother. You want to add your insight on?
Yes. The African Union, very, very interested with Agenda 2063. And I know some of the goals and objective is to, eradicate, the immense poverty stricken, brothers and sisters across Africa. That's one of their goals. The cure the homeless, the sick, and it's a lofty goals. And the year they picked 2063 is because, the big conference that they had in 1963 to make it 100 years later. The concerns I have with it is first and foremost, the African Union at one point, Dr. Erikana Chiaboy Quo was the ambassador, the permanent ambassador for the African Union for the United States. And what had happened was, she was raising a lot of awareness when it came to the exploitation of France, of 14 African countries, basically, receiving over $500 billion a year from the 14 countries. So when she was, raising a lot of awareness on those factors, they basically, they fired her from her position, right? And I think, and the African Union is the one who did it. So if we're really going to be serious, about basically dismantling colonization and imperialism and pushing them out, why would we fire and get rid of a powerful voice who basically was raising awareness not only on the continent of Africa, but also in the diaspora, and even basically, trying to unite, the Africans in the diaspora with the Africans on the continent so that we can work together. Now, in order for us as a people in Africa, in the diaspora, to return to greatness, there are steps that has to be taken, right? And, some of the steps were outlined beautifully as far as being able to move across Africa, without having to have a visa. But also one thing that bothers me more than anything, because the African Union is also supposed to be pushing for, one government in Africa, right? And with one military force and all of that. But these are also the ones who make up the African Union, the presidents and prime ministers of different countries. So they're afraid of losing power. So it's kind of like a conflict of interest a lot of times. And I think that, a lot of these brothers and sisters consider themselves to be Pan-African, right? And I question it because of the fratricide, the brothers killing brothers and sisters and just the overall humanitarian crisis that's faced over in so many countries in Africa. And if we're gonna be one Africa, that's the first thing we have to do. One of the first things is stop killing each other. Because that's not African, and that's not the values and principles that our ancestors left for. And not only in Africa, here in the diaspora. Because we have a responsibility to one another as well as we do to our brothers and sisters in Africa. So I just think that, we expect so much from the youth and the children as far as our actions. But as adults, I feel like as Africans, right, that we know that outside influences cause a lot of the damage that take place in Africa. But we are adults, and we are thinking adults. And we have got to start thinking on a level where we understand collective consciousness, where we're working together as Africans and not basically holding these animosities in our mind, over the differences, whether it's the ethnic groups, the tribes, or whatever, but to see each other as brothers and sisters.
Right.
Exactly.
Right. Yeah.
If you don't mind me going, there is some. Do you want me to?
Yes.
Okay. So, like he mentioned very eloquently, part of the reason why the AU was formed, if you remember, before the AU there was OAU. OAU was the Organization of African Units, Unity. OAU ran its course and ended in 1999. The AU was formed in 2002. And the reason for that was to foster unity among the African states, to help the African states to get rid of the remnants of colonialism. It was also to help solidify some of the good that Africa has achieved during the time of OAU and coming towards this time. It wanted to help strengthen the independence of these African nations and to help to get all these African nations to cooperate with each other, to work together. Like he mentioned, remove some of the vestiges of colonialism, where for you to go from Nigeria to Liberia, which almost one people, now you have to go and get a visa. For you to go from Nigeria to Ghana or from Ghana to Sierra Leone, you have to go get a visa. And these were artificial boundaries that were put in during the colonial periods. So part of the reason for AU's creation was to get rid of all these vestiges of colonial hindrances to our development, to help us cooperate with each other, to help us develop ourselves, to become brothers and our brothers' keepers. And remember, there are diaspora Africans also. We need to also work together with the African brothers and the diasporan brothers. So these things has to be done for Africa to become free, for black man to realize his place in the world. And this is what this AU was intending to provide. And I think we have done some things, but we still have some ways to go.
Yes.
Yeah. and like Brother Ausar was speaking on, and you mentioned it also how the diaspora got to, we got to connect. And over here in the diaspora and all over the diasporas, we need to come together, and we need to start thinking of a way, because the resources in Africa is being moved along, but we need to be, we need to come up with something that we can use the resources, how to transfer the resources into something that could be useful for us, so we can be useful for our brothers and sisters over on the motherland. And stop chasing monetary things and chasing the power, because all that power and all the resources that we need lives in the motherland. So instead of chasing it now, killing each other for whatever, and we're gonna, and like we said, we're gonna flow back to that 360. But real quick, let's talk about this, the AES at this time, the alliance of somebody help me with SAHEL.
Well, the alliance
Sahel.
of the
Sahel.
Sahel nations, yes.
Right. The Alliance of the Sahel States, or the AES for short. It was formed in September of 2023. That aims to strengthen regional cooperation among a few nations, Mali, Burkina Faso, as we speak,
And
a lot. Niger, I think, was it Senegal also?
Well, Senegal is not a military ruling country, right? Well, Senegal is not being ruled by a military person, but an elected president. But they have a lot in common, and he has basically indicated that he's willing to work with the AES countries.
Okay,
I mean,
right.
the president of Senegal.
Right, understood.
Yes.
So they're trying to tackle their security and economic problems or challenges right now.
Exactly.
Right. So they withdrew from the ECOWAS.
Correct.
They create the creation of the Confederal Bank for Investment and Development.
Yes.
Intensify anti-terrorism operations.
Exactly.
And their ongoing efforts toward economic independence. So, Brother Matt, what is your assessment of the AES and their recent developments?
I really applaud the AES countries. They are leading the way, and ECOWAS is following. In the old days, and that's my I need to tweet that out. I made that one up, and I think it's very correct, because we were looking for ECOWAS to lead, and ECOWAS continuously dropped the ball, and AES came along and showed us exactly what we were looking for, and that's why every black person on this earth today respects Burkina Faso and its leadership for what they have shown African countries. President Ibrahim Traore is now the African president, if you ask me, and he has really earned it. He took the bull by the horn, and all these policies that this man is coming up with is what it seems as though this is what we have been waiting for. Because all the presidents in the West African Economic Community, ECOWAS, what they have been doing is synonymous to really representing the Western world, as opposed to representing their African people or their African populations. And it seems as though the African youth have been yearning for a leadership that will take us away from that kind of leadership. And we have all these presidents perpetuating themselves in office years after they became effective, years after they were no longer effective. They couldn't bring anything to the table. But what they have mastered is how to rig elections, how to keep themselves in office, and how to really not take care of their population. Infrastructure was not there, education was not there, health care was not there, basically nothing. When they get sick, they go to France, London, or they go to Germany, or they go to one of those places to go take care of themselves. But when their population, when people get sick, they don't even have a clean hospital to go to. And this went on for years until Ibrahim Traore came along and changed all this. And the ECOWAS has the guts to want to punish them, to want to go to war with them, for saying, we want you to represent us, we the Africans. You are using our resources to represent the European countries, our colonizers. And we don't want that. So now, when these ECOWAS presidents get together, try to gang up against Ibrahim Traore, almost the whole of Africa stood up and said, no, you're not going to do that. You're not going to do that. And so, in fact, do you know that the president of ECOWAS, or the leader of ECOWAS, was supposedly the president of my country? But he didn't have any choice but to resign because people didn't want him. I'm talking about Nigerian president. He had to resign, and that the position he held went to another person. Because people said, you're not going to be leading ECOWAS the way you're leading Nigeria. It's not going to work. We don't want your style of leadership. So basically, what is happening today and what is so good about the AES countries is that these three countries are fearless. The leaders are fearless. They are not afraid of the Europeans. They are not afraid of anybody. They are tired of their people suffering. When we have abundance, it's like you are in the river, yet there is soap in your eyes. It's crazy, right?
Oh,
You
yeah.
have soap in your eyes and you are there in the
Yeah,
river.
no,
You can
and
easily
you-
take water and
yeah,
wipe
no
off your
water.
eyes, right?
Right.
But you are there and you are almost like your hands is tied behind your back. And yet you have soap in your eyes. So we applaud the AES countries. Everybody that I know is wishing that we can have that kind of leader or leaders in Nigeria and some other African countries. People who are fearless, who represent their population, who are interested in doing what they can to alleviate the suffering of the common man. Those are the kind of leaders we want. And that is the kind of leaders they have in AES.
Right. And you was going around to it like the ECOWAS is many view that the ECOWAS is influenced by Western powers and
Correct.
so they was talking about attacking
Attacking the
Nigeria.
AES countries. You know, Niger was the first one. They tried to threaten, and then came along Ibrahim Traore, and then other people joined. And now that they have formed an alliance of their own, now they are presenting an opposite kind of it's like a comparison to ECOWAS. So now you can choose between ECOWAS and AES, but everybody can look at their policies and see that ECOWAS is going backwards,
Right.
and AES is moving Africa forward. And so all the youths in Africa are now subscribing to the AES,
AES, right.
as opposed to ECOWAS.
And real quick, try to clear it up a little bit, and then I'm gonna come right to you, brothers. 'Cause I know you wanna give your thoughts on, but the ECOWAS for the listeners who and we talked about it before on the show when you was here before, but for the listeners, can you kind of like give a quick who the ECOWAS, the ECOWAS states or countries, just a little quick history of the ECOWAS and
Okay, the ECOWAS states are West African countries. ECOWAS stands for Economic Community of West African States.
okay,
Economic Community of West African States, ECOWAS.
right,
Now, it was formed, just like we mentioned earlier, to foster cooperation between all these West African countries.
right,
It was supposedly to help these countries get rid of all this remnant of colonialism, to make us begin to work together with one another, to help us develop our individual countries and bring some kind of a cohesion between all these West African countries. But what you have gotten since that time is anything but.
yeah, okay,
And that's why AES is giving us an alternative. It so happens that AES countries are also from West Africa. So, and when they were being threatened, they simply quit Economic Community of West African States and formed their own,
right,
which is now called AES.
okay,
And that's the short form of introduction to these two. Okay.
right. And brother Sir, you wanna?
Yes, I I think that that's very interesting as far as ECOWAS, and then the AES, forming out of ECOWAS, coming out of ECOWAS, and basically just distancing themselves with those type of policies, and really focusing on more of what's going to benefit the brothers and sisters, and I know Burkina Faso is leading the way, in the AES with President Ibrahim Traore, right? Who basically, follow the teachings and lessons of Thomas Sankara, and I think that that's important, right? That Thomas Sankara, what he was able to do, and then he was basically, assassinated, right? And that kind of threw the country back. And I think that, when we look at the AES and we look at Burkina Faso and President Troy, we see, that this is the type of leadership. And I like when Brother Mac spoke on him, he see him as the president of Africa because we need one Africa because, it's often discussed about divide and conquer and divide and rule. And we know that in 1884 and 1885, and I know we're going to get to this conversation about the Berlin Conference, right? And basically what they was able to do, divide Africa into 50-something different countries, right? So that tactic not only worked then, but it's still working today, right? Because of the division and the conflict, in certain areas of Africa, right? So, the African Union has to really, really get serious because, if we can come together and stand up to protect President Ibrahim Troy of Burkina Faso, we can all stand up and protect what's going on in the countries like Sudan, the Congo, and where there's other conflict. It just has to get to the point where we remember our ancestors' teachings of truth, justice, and righteousness. And we know that how can we consider ourselves a Pan-African if we're murdering our own brothers and sisters, right? And I'm not just talking about on the continent, I'm talking about over here in the diaspora as well. We've really got to start getting serious and understanding that if we really have the knowledge of self and love ourselves, we're not going to murder one another. I don't care nothing about the resources or whatever, because there's an abundance of resources in Africa and an abundance of poverty by the African people. And that's why the government and the leadership, we've got to stop making excuses because we are thinking beings. Last week we talked about African deep thought, right? And we had to go into African deep thought and understand that murdering one another is not African deep thought. Exactly. It's playing into the hands of the enemy. Divide and conquer like they did in 1884 and 1885. And after divide and conquer is what? Divide and rule.
Valid.
They are both going together. They're working hand in hand. It's that when they divide you, they kind of decentralize your power.
That's right.
And then they can rule you.
Yes.
Because if you are not together, you become like
weaker,
a prey.
Yeah.
Okay, the strong animal will sweep you off your feet.
Right.
But when you are together, then you can stand your ground. And that's what these people knew that we are still unable to learn from. We still are divided by race. We are divided by culture. We are divided by tribes. We are divided by all these little things, religion and all the rest, language.
Yes.
So when they use all these things to divide you, then it becomes difficult for you to come together to accomplish any given task.
Right.
For us to really become our best, we have to get rid of all these things and become one. There is one thing that binds us together. That is this our skin color and the fact that we all come from Africa.
Yeah.
Right.
If we can just let that be our goal, that we are going to unite because we are Africans. We are going to unite because we are black. Then that would be able to gather all of us together, and then we can speak with one voice, and then we can accomplish more.
Right. And of course, the first step, they keep us separated mostly, most of the time, with the economics. Just
rich and poor.
Yeah. So once we understand that, everything. I mean, simple as we could come up with a new monetary system, which they're working on now. And once the new monetary system comes in fact, then we all need to start thinking about how to get involved in that. And I'm speaking mostly about over here in the diaspora right now. We need to start thinking about how we can get involved in the different monetary system that's going to be starting to rise up. I think BRICS was once upon a time was coming about with it and all. I'm not going to spend too much time on that part because everything after every time we speak, it's always coming back to like a civil war. Even if it's two countries paying against each other, it's still in my view, it's still considered a civil war because, as Brother Ausar spoke earlier, fratricide. As you was just speaking right then, we all just from the one skin color, we all still one. So these civil wars, these coups that's going on over
Talking
there.
about that, before you go into this coup, you know, Gaddafi, Muammar Gaddafi of Libya, was killed by the West, by also our own brother, Obama. If you remember, that was not too long ago.
Right.
You know, the reason why he was killed? Because he had this idea that he is going to create an African financial system
Right.
backed by gold.
Right.
There is only one country in the world that can produce any quantity of gold that you can think of. It's Africa.
Right.
No other country in the world.
Right.
No other continent. And Gaddafi saw this. In the old days, money was backed by gold.
Right.
But somehow, America and the Great Britain and some European countries found a way to replace gold with paper that was printed.
Yeah. Yeah.
So they used the printed paper to buy your gold, and they stack up more gold than you, the producer. Like France is the fourth largest repository of gold. Yet, France does not have any gold mines in France. Guess what they did? They printed paper, they used it to buy all the gold in Africa, and they kept it in France. Whereas the countries where they are getting the gold from, including Burkina Faso, is starving to death. There is no infrastructure, there is no clean pipe-borne water, there is no good educational facilities, there is no good hospital. Yet the gold is being mined from their soil.
Right.
You know, Niger is the largest producer of the material that is used to produce nuclear fission, nuclear power. Do you know that Niger doesn't have any electrical facilities? They get their power from Nigeria.
Right.
Nigeria sells electricity to them.
Right.
Whereas France is using their minerals to power their whole country 24 hours. And the people that are producing it are languishing.
Yeah.
Their soil is being polluted, their water is polluted, their farmlands are polluted by the mining of this mineral. And France is using it, paying them pennies. And so the reason I'm saying this now is that there is many movements in the past to create an economic system for Africans. And the Europeans know that Africa, when this happens, if Gaddafi had succeeded, then Africa would have been the richest continent in the whole world. Of which Africa is the richest continent in the world.
Right.
But the Europeans and the Americans do not want this to manifest. So they like to keep Africa where it is, poor, begging, and unsatisfied.
Right. Right.
So Gaddafi had to go. In their opinion, Africa could never be allowed to produce this gold-backed financial system. Right. Because America knows they can't compete. Europe knows that they cannot compete. So the best thing is to kill off the man who is proposing this.
That makes sense. But it's not going to be easy. We're going to really have to, we got to be fearless in this war that we're involved in. So that's why we cry for the unity so bad, because it is a war, and the strength is in numbers. We have those numbers if we come together and use those numbers. And this is just to reflect before we go forward into the coups that's happening now. Let's reflect on ones that happened, first. Let's reflect on like King Leopold II. Let's run back him in 1883. He had a letter to the missionaries in the Congo, and it revealed the colonial agenda to exploit African resources. Now, under the guise of evangelization, demonstrating deep manipulation of African people's belief to protect European interests. Now, Brother Ausar, can you reflect on the significance of this letter and the impact it have on African history and consciousness?
Yes. That letter was, because Leopold, he was one of the Belgium. He was the leader of Belgium, and proposed.
He was the king of Belgium.
Yeah. I don't like to call him king. Yeah. Because of what he did. The atrocities, killed over between 15 million and 20 million in the Congo. So that's why I don't like to give him that title. I just like to call him Leopold. But he is the one who helped initiate the Berlin Conference in 1884 and 85 because of the resources. And the European countries came, and so they decided, instead of us fighting one another, right? Mm-hmm. Let's come together and divide Africa, with France getting so much, Great Britain getting so much, the Belgium getting so much, and so forth. France, Germany. And so once this was done and they split up Africa, right, Leopold, what he was able to do at the time, rubber has started becoming real popular in the early 1900s because of, bicycles, tires and all things of that nature. So we know about the atrocities as far as chopping off the limbs of the children and the adults, separating the men from their wives for 6 months at a time, a year at a time, all for exploitation to build, their economy up, right? And so his instructions to his evangelists was to have them believing in their God, in their religious system, and not our traditional beliefs. He said that the Africans really know right from wrong, but they weren't going to focus on that. They were going to focus on trying to bring us religion and making us think that the European was superior to the black man, the African, right? And we've discussed this before on how everybody talk about Hitler and what was done to the Jews, I think 6 million, but the atrocities of not only Leopold, but other European leaders in countries, and the atrocities are still going on today, right? So we have to take these documents seriously and look at them, right? And understand that when the European nations come in, it's never for the good of Africa. Never. It's always for the destruction of African civilization and African life.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
You want to speak on?
Well, what my brother said is exactly correct. Mm-hmm. Leopold saw Africa as a land that was ripe for exploitation. Mm-hmm. So he thought that the mineral resources and the things that make up Africa belongs to the European, that they can take it because the African was not human. The African was just like a commodity. Mm-hmm. So he was able to go into Congo, and one single man became the owner of a country of millions of people, plus all kinds of mineral resources. Of course, you know that there is no country in the world that is as rich in mineral resources as the Congo. Mm-hmm. And this one man owned the whole of Congo. The way he treated the Congolese people, if you were not able to produce the amount of, or the quota of rubber that you were assigned to produce, this man was willing to have your hands chopped off as punishment. And not only your hand, he can chop off the hands of your wife and your children as punishment for not producing enough quota. And we're talking about child labor. Do you know that children were supposed to be in the field harvesting rubber? And if they did not meet the quota, they can have their hands cut off and the hands of their parents cut off as punishment. You talk about enslavement. This man enslaved millions of Africans. and just treated them. They used to pile up people's hands that were chopped up as like you can have them loaded in containers and shipped back to Belgium.
Yeah.
And so even at my age, and this is 2025, when you think about this, it makes you very angry to think of your people being treated this way. So this is just this is just Belgium. Then think about Britain, what they did to the rest of the African continent. Think about Germany, Spain. Think about all these other countries that enslaved Africans and colonized Africans and basically stole Africa's natural resources for themselves, for their own good,
Right.
and helped to keep Africa where it is today.
So before Leopold came into the country from Belgium, was there not a government in place in the Congo?
The African people did not. Let me give you an example from my own tribe. We Africans, we like to live in small communities.
Yeah.
We have sometimes chiefs, not the Indian chief, the chief. The chief was responsible for his community. He had some people that work with him to maintain order and peace in that community.
So
Now, these different small communities make up the whole.
no, I get it.
So
already.
we did not have a national government, so to say, that have military that can fight. In the South African theater, it was a little different because you had because of the way the British were coming and taking over land and, treating the people. Some people began to organize. And you have kings that came up to fight the British.
Right.
And you have had some of the names in history. So not all African countries had that. By the way, there was no African countries. Africa was one, except that it was made up of individual
No,
small
I understand.
communities.
Right.
So that was one of the reasons why it was difficult for Africa to fight back when all these things were happening.
Right. Because we just been our peaceful, loving.
Yes,
our
we welcome people. We
our
welcome
our divine selves, and
Exactly.
they seen an opening because we just sit in small hut tribes.
Correct.
And they seen an opening to come in and hey, we can knock one off at a time. So that's why it's important right now for the to connect the whole Africa now. And so what the AES is trying to accomplish, and I'm sure many more people is thinking the same way. Let's walk into what's going on over there in modern time. First of all, let me say what a coup is, in case a lot of people is not familiar with the word. The sudden, decisive, and illegal overthrow of an existing government.
Correct.
Right. So
By a military junta.
by military or political, military mostly.
Yes. Most of the time, a coup can be military on civilian government, or it can be military on military. I don't know if you understand what I mean. So, in the Nigerian theater, for example, there have been times when the military overthrew a civilian elected government. And then, after a while, another military junta, takes over government again from the military coup plotter who has been ruling after taking power from a civilian. I don't know if you're understanding what I mean.
Hold on. You said
Okay. So
a community selected figure.
no. Well, you can have a politically somebody who won an election.
One election, right?
Okay,
Community
so-
elected figure, right?
Correct. He can be in power, and
Right.
either because he's not doing well or the military think that they can take over. The military can take over that government. And while this military that took over the government are in power, another military can take over government from them. So now you have military on military coup.
Right, I get that.
You see?
Yeah.
So these things, I just wanted to give that comparison for you to know.
No, I'm glad you did because
Yeah.
I'm gonna keep using Leopold because he's one that's so if you got a community elected figure, but it's not going the way that they thought, and you have some rebels in the back. Now you can have someone like Leopold come in, and he could whisper in the rebels' ear. He can give them some financial backing and tell them that.
Let's say France. Okay, let's say France because this
Okay,
is what
France.
France have been doing in Africa for years,
And
and
this-
also Great Britain and some
And Great-
and other countries.
Right. And so this is what caused the fratricide right there, right, brother? Because the infiltration from an outside source, or the outside source can even come to the top of the political power, and have them just oppressing the citizens out there to
For the benefit of the
benefit
sponsoring
of the
country.
right.
There was a coup in Madagascar within the past month. That coup, the ruler of Madagascar leaned to France. So basically, the infrastructure was underdeveloped, poverty was rampant, people were just not being taken care of. Of course, France was able to get what they wanted through the president of Madagascar. And at a point, the hunger and pestilence became so bad that the military decided that enough is enough. They took over power. But before they did, France had already read the tea leaves, and they had to evacuate the president before he was murdered or killed by the coup plotters. So this is one example. And then, of course, in Cameroon, right now, it hasn't been a coup yet, but every right-thinking person thinks eventually it's going to be.
Yeah.
Because we have the man I described when we first started this show today, who is 92 years old.
Right.
He has ruled the country for over 42 years. And he has been backed by France all this time.
Yeah.
Of course, France have benefited from Cameroon more than the citizens of Cameroon. And at this point, this man is 92 years old. He ran for government for president again, for the 8th time. Now, if any person that France does not like, any president that challenges France and runs for presidency after 2 times, France would remove him from power.
Of course.
But when you are playing and dancing to their tune, you can do anything you want. So this man has run for president 8 times.
Right.
And he's 92 years old. The man can barely stand up on his own.
He can't even hardly
He
move no more.
defecates on himself. He pees on himself.
He can still dance for France though.
Well, but he can still do what France wants him to do.
Right.
So they want him there.
Right.
But the people have finally had enough. So it has been serious rioting. The place is almost on fire. They are burning things down because they say this man is not going to rule us again. And the opponent has already declared himself a winner in that election. But of course, he has the backing of France.
Right.
I have a question concerning the coup d'etats that take place by the military when they take over a civilian government or when the military take over another military government. The militaries that are basically initiate and carrying out these coup d'etats, are they trained and do they really have the ability to lead a government and lead the people? And are they really representing the people, or are they just representing their military group that they represent?
Well, and this is my opinion, okay? There has been some military governments, particularly in Nigeria, that did well. Most military officers are trained all through the rank, getting to generals. They are all trained in leadership. Of course, they have to lead soldiers. So those generals are leaders. They are leaders because they have been tested by time. They have to lead soldiers into war. They have to actually have plans to win a war.
Yeah, I mean, I was in the military, but I know
Okay.
here in the United States, right?
Yes.
And I know it's different than Africa.
It's
But
not,
I
it's not-
understand.
it's not much different.
Right,
It's about the same.
I understand that the commitment in the military is to the military, and that they view the civilians as civilians. So they really don't.
bloody civilians.
Right. They don't really see themselves as one
Yeah, true.
with the civilians.
Yeah.
So I think that, when we really think about it deeply, that's a dangerous phenomenon when you're talking about military coups on the innocent government officials. And I know that some of the government officials are corrupt and need to be removed, right? As well as some of the military. I think that, the main thing that we're facing here is that we're not following the ways and traditions of our ancestors. And we're not really looking at things from a humanitarian perspective. And I think that, as Africans, we got to get back to that, whether we're on the continent or whether we're in the diaspora. I know it's not as simple as we're trying to make it sound to stop, the war and things of that. But I think if we use our minds and understand the tricks and games that are played against us, and what really gets to me is there's no value on African life. And that right there really disturbs me, even amongst Africans.
It's true.
It's so easy for us to kill one another and think nothing of it. And see, it's that mentality and that type of psychological defect that we're suffering from that we have to overcome that. And the only way we overcome that is with the knowledge of self. Because and I'm talking about on the motherland, on the continent, and in the diaspora. Because once we have the knowledge of self, we understand that we have to work together. And the knowledge of self also leads to the love of self. And the knowledge of self is the knowledge of your brothers and sisters and the love of your brothers and sisters wherever we are on the planet, right? And a lot of times we talk a lot about Pan-Africanism and we talk a lot about the unification of Africa, but when it's time to put it in action, few do it. Like the AES is doing it through their actions. Their thoughts and their actions are aligning with their mission and their message, not only for the AES countries, but for the countries throughout Africa.
Very true. Very true. You are very right. And of course, you know that Ibrahim Traoré is a military man. Ibrahim Traoré.
Yes, he is.
And the president of Niger is a military man.
And the thing about
And the president of Mali is too.
Right, Ibrahim Traoré, right? And the question that I asked was, are they for the people? He clearly shows
That he's
for the people.
That's why I said that.
Just
some
like
of
Thomas
them,
Sankara
Exactly.
was for the people.
Exactly.
And those are the type of leaders that we need that put the people first and are connected to the people. That's the African way.
Yes, and that's why I mentioned to you that there have been some military leaders, particularly in Nigeria, who were good.
Right.
And there are some that are terrible.
Right.
So even in civilian governments, there are some that are good and there are some that are terrible.
Right.
So it's not about whether they are civilian or whether they are military. It's about what they have in mind to accomplish for their people.
Right.
Ibrahim Traoré came there and he showcased what he wants to accomplish.
Right.
And people are applauding him. And yet he's a military man. All over Africa, people are really praising him, not minding that he's military. In fact, there are people calling for military to take over some countries in Africa right now, just because of how good he is doing.
But
With his
it
counterparts.
takes the right leaders because
Exactly.
What's going on in Sudan, and I know that the brothers going to get to that. It's terrible.
These politicians are exploiting us. A lot of them have allegiance not to Africans, but to foreign powers who are getting them elected and keeping them in power and protecting them. They are really not for Africa.
Right.
So, if you are a politician and you are only going to steal the people's commonwealth and take it to France so you can buy houses in the Riviera where one single residence costs millions of dollars, whereas in your village there is no pipe-borne water, there is no passable road, there is no good hospital, and your children go to school. Well, of course, they send their children abroad, but the children from your community go to school in swallows. Squalors. When the rain falls, there is rain falling right there where your child is carrying his paper and pen, trying to learn.
Right.
But these people are sending their children to Oxford. So it's not the politician that we want. It's not the military that we want. We just want good leaders.
Right.
Good leaders. That's all. That has their mind in the right places.
Yes, if I could add on, because you talked about the circumstances as far as running water, a lack of paved roads, and just other amenities that would really make life a lot better for our brothers and sisters in Africa. It was a book that was introduced to me by my Jake Baba Atmos, dealing with the underdevelopment of Africa. I think it was Dr. Walter Rodney, and it was talking about how it was intentionally underdeveloped.
Of course.
Right, and how it's still taking place today.
Yes.
Now, this is, I feel like, where the great minds of Africa on the continent and the diaspora, where we need to start working together, because we have the ability to know how to get roads paved, to have running
we
water.
We have engineers here.
We have all the technology. Yeah, you're an engineer.
We have,
you know better than I know. Right, that we have the ability to do whatever we need to get done, and we need to do it. We need to stop, in my opinion, finding excuses not to do what needs to be done. Right, and I think one of the first things that need to stop is the fratricide. Right, brothers killing brothers.
Yes.
Like what's going on in the Congo today with the M23. Which is basically a part of the Tutsis. All this is stemming from what happened in 1994, the genocide in Rwanda, where the Hutus killed over 800,000 Tutsis. All these things are important, right? They talk about ethnic cleansing. When they talk about ethnic cleansing, they're just talking about wiping out Africans. And they're using Africans to wipe out Africans. We can't say 800,000 people and just think that that's just a number. That's devastating.
Yeah.
It's devastating. And the fact that it's still taking place today in the Congo, and when me and Linda Dart and, our admin for KCSSU and also, for this radio show, when we were studying and researching to find out exactly what is the African Union doing to stop these conflicts, it said that they're having, and me and Linda started laughing, they're having panel discussions, they're forming committees, and I was taught that anytime they forming committees, that means that they really don't want to do anything about it. And we have got to do things about the situation that's going on in the Congo. We know that the Congo is the most resourceful land on the planet Earth. And that's what all the fighting is about at the end of the day. It ain't no African life worth, I don't care how much money you throw out there. We have got to learn to value African life, each and every African life. And once we start to do that, we start to realize that we playing into the hands of the enemy when we're sitting here killing each other over resources and over things really that don't even matter, at the end of the day. And that's why we continue to be dominated on a global scale. We have got to understand that our ancestors, right, they did a lot, right? And even the recent ancestors, like in 1963, the great brother Kwame Nkrumah and everything that they were trying to do. We have got to learn from our past leaders, right, what we need to do, and stop just talking about our past leaders without following the lead of true unification that's going to lead to true liberation, independence, and global power.
And brother Saul, he walked right into where I was trying to head to next, about the M23 rebel group over in the Congo. So brother Matt, you wanna add on about any the Congo, the conflict going on in Congo?
Well, some of the problems, like my brother here mentioned, are of our own creation. Because you can blame the outsider, you can blame the foreigner, You can blame the European all you want. But when we are not working together with each other, when we are not seeing our brother as worthy of our protection, when we don't regard our brother as being created by God just like us,
Right.
if we can take our brother's life just like that, that's why we can form gangs and kill each other. And it happens here
That's
also.
right. That's right.
All the time.
Even here, it happens. But even the color of clothes you're wearing can get you killed. You can wear the wrong clothes and go in the wrong neighborhood, and that's all there is, about it. And you are killed. You are shot down. The same things is happening in Africa, and we have to start looking at our brother. We have to start looking at ourselves as our brother's keeper.
Right.
We have to start looking at that country as ours. Like we're talking about Congo and Zaire. The outside influence is going to encourage us to not get along, to kill each other.
Right.
But who's going to sit on the side and watch? The outsider. And after nobody is standing, after we have killed our brothers and we are killed, then they walk in and take the prize. So it's up to us to realize that we have a stake in this game. If you kill your brother, you have lost.
Right.
If you steal what belongs to you, if you come here and you've been elected president, and instead of using the natural resources that is bestowed in your country to provide electricity, water, pipe-borne water, schools, and hospitals, guess who's dying? Your people.
Right.
When you get sick, you go to France to go get it. Let me tell you something that happened. The president of Nigeria was sick, and he goes to a hospital in London to go get treatment. A Nigerian man was his doctor in London.
Right.
He failed to provide hospital in his homeland.
Right.
In Nigeria, he failed to provide a hospital.
Right.
Nigerian trained doctors and nurses are flying out of the country in drones. And this Western world are seeing them as good doctors, employing them in their hospitals to save Americans, to save British people. And our president now goes there to get his own life saved. Yeah. And he has been saved by a Nigerian man whom he failed to provide a hospital for to work in Nigeria. So who is stupid here? So this Nigerian man now, who is his doctor, can easily mix up a concoction and then put it on him, and his dead are gone, right?
Nah, yeah.
But if he were in Nigeria and being taken care of, would he even need to go to London to go get treated? Yeah. If he provided a hospital and medication and the right tools, he doesn't need to go anywhere. There was another president that was sick, and he was in a flight going for treatment in Europe, and his plane crashed. Him and his wife and some of his family members who were accompanying him, they all perished.
Right.
If he had had doctors and hospitals in Nigeria, then he wouldn't have died.
It's time for us to start getting creative and using our imagination again, because all the medicines we can create the medicines from the natural resources, because the motherland, she holds all the resources that we need for the medicines. And then, you mentioned, just the proper schools and all. I mean, a building to teach, but we do got to get back to teaching just traditional type of education. Right. I mean it's something, because that's why we read the Memorandum 46 that did not just state the people in Africa or the people over here in the diaspora. It pinned us both together. Yes. You see what I'm saying? What's that other thing? The apology letter to all colors. You know what I mean? They're not just saying people in North Carolina or people in Mali. They're saying all people. Point I'm getting to right here, right now, is that they're dividing us. It's a design to have to put this wedge in between us for this division. And speaking of splits, let me run across run into the Sudan just for a moment. We ain't got to stay there long. But I want to speak real quick about Sudan split in the north.
North and South Sudan.
Right, north and south. So in the north right now it's predominantly they're using mainly Sunnis, the Muslims. So it's predominantly about I think 97% Muslims, and in the south they're primarily Christian. Only about 37.2% Roman Catholic, but if I were not mistaken of what I seen myself, it's over 60% Christian there as a
In
whole.
the South.
Right, in the South. So it raises a question about religious conflict versus the resource control. So was the split strictly, Brother Matt, strictly driven by resources in the South, or is it a religious conflict?
It's mainly religious, because the Muslims and the Christians were not getting along, and because there was oil discovered in the South. So it was partly economic, it was partly religious, and it was also partly cultural. Because in the South, the Christians have a different outlook, different ways of looking at religion and different ways of treating people. In the North, which is predominantly Muslim, they have Sharia law. You know what Sharia law is?
What's that?
Okay, so Sharia law is a legal system that is run by the Muslims.
You said a legal system?
It's a legal system, yes.
Okay.
And so the kind of punishment Sharia law would produce is different from the type that the Christian-based
Right, indeed.
courts will produce. In a Sharia law, for example, if you are found guilty, you can be stoned to death.
Okay.
Or you can have your hand chopped off if you steal.
Right.
Or you can, those kind of brutish kind of punishments. So that is a big difference. And we have the same problem in Nigeria. The whole of the North, most of the North is Muslim, and most of the South is Christian. Of course, there are some pockets of Christians in the North and also in the South. But the North have been fighting for some time now, trying to establish Sharia law. And they have actually established Sharia law in some states. Now, Sharia law means you cannot profit from alcohol. So now look at this irony. So you are a Christian, you live in the North. You cannot buy or sell alcohol. In the South, you can sell alcohol because you are a Christian, and money that you collect, you pay taxes on it. And when these taxes are collected, then the taxes are distributed by a quota. Each state gets something. So now the states in the North, which does not believe in Sharia law, will now benefit from the taxes collected from the South, where they sold the alcohol. I don't know if you're understanding what I'm.
Oh yeah.
No,
So now
I'm trying to follow you. Speaking on Nigeria now. Or you talking about
Nigeria. I'm just
in the
using that
Sudan?
example. I'm trying
Right.
to compare this Sharia law because it applies also in Nigeria,
Right.
as it does in in Sudan,
in the Sudan,
in
right.
North Sudan, and some other countries. Even in Saudi Arabia and other places.
Yeah, I have a quick question. Because I know you said that in the North is the Muslims, but really, are we talking about Arabs and non-Arabs? Because
I mean, in Nigeria.
no, I'm talking about in Sudan.
Well-
right, because they're talking about ethnic cleansing, right, and the humanitarian crisis that's taking place, right, and it's a lot of the rapid the rapid forces, rapid support forces, the RSF, right, that are committing a lot of the atrocities as far as the murdering of innocent people, the hanging, the burning, right, and they saying that it's an ethnic cleansing, right, and that's getting rid of the Africans, right, that are in Southern Sudan.
That's what I mean by cultural.
Right. It's cultural, but I think that it's important to point out that these are the Arabs.
Yes, the
and
Muslims are Arabs.
Right, and that they're killing
And the Southerners are Christians.
the Africans.
And they're black Africans, yes.
Right, and I think that's important for us, to know the difference, right? Because this type of activities has been taking place a long time.
Yes.
In Africa, we talk about colonialism, and you're talking about the Arabs as well. You're talking about imperialism, you're talking about the Arabs as well.
Exactly.
But because they control North Africa, so much of North Africa, that we really don't speak on it in those terms the way we do the colonizers from Europe. And I think that we really, and that's why, when I really look at Pan-Africanism, and the question, becomes, well, what about the Africans in the North that are Muslims and that are Arabs, right? How can they be a part of Pan-Africanism when they are continuously, committing crimes against humanity, against Africans, and it's taking place today. Over 150,000 Africans in southern Sudan have been murdered, and we hear these crazy numbers, and we really don't think nothing about it, about the value of life. And one thing you spoke on about the oil, but I think it's important to understand that what's going on in the Sudan, right, is a lot of the gold, 80% of the gold, is somehow finding itself in Dubai, right? And they are saying that the UAE, the United Arab Emirates, are responsible, right, for funding the RSF, who are fighting the Sudanese armed forces, the SAF.
Correct.
Right. So I think that we really need to understand that, it's the resources here as well because of the gold. Right. And Dubai, they got so much money and they're into all kinds of things, right? But they're not innocent in this. And a lot of people are talking about what's going on with the UAE and supporting the rapid RSF, right? The Rapid Support Forces, right? Against the SAF, the Sudanese Armed Forces, right? So I just wanted to make that clear, right? Because for one, they're talking about ethnic cleansing. And this is where I feel like the whole of Africa should step up to put protection on the African brothers and sisters against the war tactics of the Arabs from the north.
Yes, I think you covered that area very, very well. I cannot say it any better than myself. But you see, I have to also mention to you that the same things we're talking about in Sudan is also happening in Nigeria.
Right.
And Nigeria is the breadbasket of Africa. This morning, I was up a little bit earlier today, just studying. And one of the things I found out was that the U.S. have declared Nigeria a country of particular concern. And the reason for that is because the Muslims in the north are basically trying to exterminate all the Christians. So there is something about Muslims, wherever they are, they cannot live together with other religions. They always want to kill the other people so that they can perpetuate their own. Whether it's in Arab countries or whether it is even in Africa, we're talking about Sudan. The Muslims want to take over the southern Sudan, which is basically African people, black Africans. They want to take over the whole. This is why they fought for their own independence and they got it. But now they are trying to cleanse them, kill them all, and take over. This thing is going on in Nigeria.
Right.
It's going on in many other African countries. There is something called Boko Haram. I don't know if you're familiar with that word, Boko Haram.
Boko Haram.
Boko Haram. Boko Haram is a religious group, a Muslim religious group that have sworn to take over Nigeria and make it their emirate, the whole of Nigeria. And guess what? They're not even natural to Nigeria. They don't come from Nigeria. They come from somewhere else. Some people say they come from Arab, but they mixed up with people in the Senegal, Gambia area. And from there, they fought their way. These people love to fight. They enjoy war. They kill people very easily, like they are nothing. They kill people. They walk into a neighborhood, into a town, and they kill everybody. They kill every animal, and they rename the town.
That's why I really feel like we need one in Africa, one military. That way we'll be able to protect our brothers and sisters from them.
Yeah.
The Arabs, right? Because also now it's some Africans that are a part of Islam too,
Of course.
that participate in the
Very
murder
correct.
and genocide of their own, which becomes fratricide, their own brothers and sisters.
Some of these people we're talking about in Nigeria, some of them are black. A lot
Yes,
of them are
indeed.
black
Right.
Africans.
Yes.
And they are doing these things. And you ask me, where did they get this from? You know, the white man introduced Christian religion to us. The Arab introduced Islam to us. The African had some belief before all this. Those were swept under the rug by both the Arab and the Western people when they brought their religion to us. The African is the only person that worships something that is not anything like him.
Right.
The Indian has a god that looks like an Indian. The white man has a god that looks like a white man.
Yeah.
The Arab has a god that looks like the Arab. So, and we worship all of them. We worship all these whatever you call them. Where is the African God? Where is the one that looks like us? And yet we kill each other to protect the Arab God, to protect the Indian God, to protect the Chinese God, to protect the European God.
Yeah.
And we don't have any hand in the game. So we need to really start looking at our conscience and our knowledge base, and realize that some of these things we are doing is not benefiting us.
Yeah.
The African has to really start thinking. Whether you are in Africa or whether you are in the diaspora, you need to start thinking.
Right.
This thing that I'm doing, is it the best thing to do? Is it the best? Is it in my best interest? I mean, everybody, some of our family members now have become so sold out in this idea of Christianity. That's fine.
No.
Or Islam.
Right.
But we need to do these things with our brains.
Right.
I don't want to go to. I don't want my wife to hate me because she's a Christian. I'm a Christian too. But
as we speak on the show all the time, we need to be, just knowledge yourself and fall back into some of the old traditions.
Exactly.
The older traditions, just to just to raise our consciousness and spirits up a little bit higher. Brother Ausar uses, you were saying the way the people got their own gods to worship. Brother Ausar uses the same analogy. Well, he used a different analogy, but he says the same thing all this time. If you ask a European, what's the best? How you say?
Basically, if you ask a European, is it better for them to take on European psychology, African psychology, or Asian psychology? They're going to say European.
Of course.
And if you ask a Chinese, they're going to say Chinese.
Of course.
But if you ask for African, they're going to be confused.
Of course.
Because we've been colonized.
We are all over the place.
Imperialization, right?
Yeah.
Miseducated, right? And, it's 1.4 billion of our brothers and sisters in Africa. And many of our brothers and sisters on the continent, just like in the diaspora, we don't have the knowledge of self because of the brutal history that we face. But if we will open up our minds, right, and say Kofa and learn the values and principles that our ancestors put forth for us to live by, we'll see that when we unite, that we cannot be defeated, right? And we know that these things are put in place to, keep us at each other's throat, like religion, Christianity, Islam. But it's like, when we think about it, and I love using the analogy, right, that there's one sun, regardless of what we call it, right, on the planet, that gives us light and energy, right, that we all breathe the same air.
Yes.
That in itself lets us know that there's a creator, regardless of what we call them, right? And like the brother said, where is the African guys that look like us, right? They're all over Africa. If we would just basically seek them out, right? Me, I adopted the Kemetic traditions back in 2008, which is African Center and orientation. But, through my studies, I've learned that it's deeper than just Kemet. It's the whole of Africa that's so important. That's why I'm African Center, right? And I believe that when we take on an African Center orientation, we're going to love our brothers and sisters, regardless of where they are at on the planet. Because, and the interesting thing is, before we came on this show, I received a couple of emails from Linda, and she was talking about, she sent me some emails dealing with the African gene pool, right? And we basically, when Baba Akmos was here, that's what we talked about, human genomes and epigenetics, dealing with the African gene pool. And when we deal with the African gene pool, we'll see the connection between all Africans and how every person on this planet has African DNA within him. If that's not going to be a unifying point for us, nothing can, right? Because we are all brothers and sisters, right? And I think that, the more we got to really study, right, and understand history, because see, they are using the youth against the youth in all of these conflicts. And if these conflicts been going on for 2 decades and 3 decades, when these youth are born, they're born into a conflict, and they're taught and educated in a way to kill their brothers and sisters as being the enemy without ever really understanding who the real enemy is. And that's why it's so important for us to have the right leaders like President Abraham Traore, who understand the youth and can connect with the youth. Like Brother Mac was talking about, how the president that's 92 years old, he kind of needs to just step aside. You know what I mean? And let the youth come in and with new ideas and ways that's going to liberate and bring about peace, and more than anything, order in Africa. We really need order in Africa, because, see, the undevelopment of Africa, like we stated, was done intentionally, right? And they still don't want Africa developed properly. They just want to go in and take the resources. We have to be wise. The African leaders and even the African general public, we have to be wise. And that's why the conflicts are always taking place, because it's hard to really focus on what need to be focused on when you're constantly in war with your own brothers and sisters.
Right. Sound like
Very,
a lot of
very
that
true.
war. Yeah, it's so
Very, very
much
true.
war in between one another. I mean, it's ridiculous. Quick, and you was talking about your home country, Nigeria. I had a few questions because I kind of figured you want to speak on it. You pretty much answered a few on that I did have already, but I still got a couple more. But real quick, I want to backtrack. I want to stay at Cameroon real quick. The 92, you said the president he's 92, right?
He's 92 years old.
Yeah. So
and he won.
He won. They already finished the election.
Yes,
He won already.
yes, he won.
So this
That's
is what
why-
I'm trying to get. So who they had, who running up against him?
Well, there is this man called Bakari. Bakari was the one that the population wants.
Okay.
But the 92-year-old president is the one that the French
Right,
won.
right. That's why I'm trying to
So he
figure
was
out.
declared the winner.
So the Frenchman hasn't found another puppet.
No, because they still have a good one.
They still have right. So okay,
Why fix it when it's not broke?
Right.
Yeah, they have a good one. This man has ruled the country basically for 40 years.
yeah,
He has basically done everything the way the French want it. So the country is running like a very well-oiled machine for France.
yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
So why change it?
Right.
Nah, no need.
So I bet you if this man can live another 100 years, they will make him live another
keep him
100
there.
years, because that he's their man.
Right.
But he's gonna die one day, and I don't know, but I'm sure I'm sure France is already making preparations to put in somebody once he's gone.
Right.
And
And that person is going to be anybody but the one that the population wants.
probably,
That's the way it usually works.
it'll probably be a Cameroon native, but he will. I
Yes,
guarantee
of course,
he would
he's going to be a
he would be-
Cameroon
but
citizen.
he would be schooled or
He'll be
educated
schooled, educated,
at
and
Oxford or somewhere of that nature.
well, Oxford maybe. Oxford is not what they want, because Oxford is more British. They want someone that is educated in France, who has the French affiliations and.
Well, in Paris somewhere. Then I don't
yes.
know the universities there.
And you know
I
one good
just
thing
used
they
what
you know
I
one
did
thing
know.
they always do? They always want you to marry a French citizen, a white woman, most of the time.
You gotta-
So that you can't get any better advisor than a French wife who is telling you which way to go. And of course, they're going to be remote controlling her to remote control you.
Yeah. Yeah,
Wow,
yeah.
that's deep right
that
there.
is that is like
That's how
that-
these things
yeah.
work. You know, that's how it works.
So, but now flip back to Nigeria real quick, because Nigeria is called the giant of Africa because of population and economics.
Yes.
What are some stepping stones they can take to regain to first of all to gain their independency, but to regain control of the people, the natives, to regain control of the whole.
One of the problems I see in Nigeria is tribalism.
Tribalism.
Correct. And it has now become so forefront
So
because of the president that is in power.
yeah.
We have really a major dichotomy in Nigeria. For many, many years, the military ruled Nigeria.
Yeah.
And the military were always Fulani in origin. I know you probably won't understand what I mean by that. Now, the Fulani are these people that came from the Fitajelon. Those are the ones I told you that they have Arab blood. But no, they are cattle rearers, and they believe in moving from point to point. They don't have any country of their own.
No, I got you.
They came from Guinea and Upper Senegal and Gambia, and they come down towards the south and the north and the south of Africa. And what they do is that wherever they settle, they try to call that their place until they are ready to move on. In this case, they settled in Nigeria in the early 1800s, and they fought, and they are Muslims. So they like to establish what they call emirates. So their leader in those days fought the northern Nigerians, and they won. And they established their emirates in Sokoto. They have since maintained that they're going to take over the whole of the country. They're going to take their what do you call their Bible, their Quran, and dip it in the water. The water is in the southern Nigeria. The whole of the north is arid. What I mean by deserts. So they have sworn to take their Quran and dip it in the water. So what that means is that they're going to conquer everywhere in between
I understand.
until the ocean.
Right.
They have been the ones ruling Nigeria for many, many years. And recently, a Yoruba man from the south won. That's the president in power now.
Okay.
Well, sometime in between, when the military were ruling, there was a single man called Obasanjo who was from the south, a Yoruba man also, but he was also the military officer. He ruled Nigeria not once but twice. Now, after the election this time was done, there is a controversy as to who won the election, but a Yoruba man became the president. And that election stirred up a lot of tribalistic sentiments. I myself, I grew up in Lagos, but I never knew how tribalistic Nigeria could be until this last election that happened about 2 years ago. What I want to answer your question, what I think we can do to better Nigeria is first we have to deal with tribalism, because this is going to be the thing that would eat away the bone marrow of Nigeria.
Do you think that's possible with the Arabs, Fulani? Because that's considered a tribe, correct?
Correct. Yeah, the Fulani is from history. Fulani constitutes only about 40 million Nigerians.
Right.
And of course, Nigeria is 240 something million people.
Right.
So out of that, Fulani is only about 40 million. Yet they control the rest of the tribes. They control all the other tribes. They have been the ones ruling the country for many years, and they are very backward. They don't believe in education. When I mentioned to you about Boko Haram has this belief that Western education is useless. So they bomb schools, they bomb churches, they refuse to have women go to school. And if you remember, a few years ago, they kidnapped 100 and something school children.
Right. Well, I can understand them feeling like, Western education ain't no good. What about African education?
Any education.
Africans,
they don't believe in education.
Right.
Yet they use Kalashnikov. They should use all those AK-47s.
Right.
I don't know. What kind of somebody doesn't believe in education, yet you use this mechanical weapon.
Well, what about ECOWAS? Is there anything that they can do about,
Well, that's one of the questions about ECOWAS. Well, if you are going to be there, all these things are going on. There is tribalism. There is these wars, Islamic wars, and against the Christian world, and there is kidnappings. There is what do you call the other thing? Anyway, all these things are going on. So, what is the role of ECOWAS about all this?
Is which government is ECOWAS? Like the Yoruba voted in president? Is he the ECOWAS part of the ECOWAS?
The ECOWAS is the Economic Community of West African States.
No, right. I mean, what part of Nigeria?
Oh, he's from Yoruba. He's from the south. But the political party he belongs to is APC, which is All People's Congress.
Okay.
Yeah, and some Northerners also belong to that party.
The who?
The party, the All People's Progressive Party.
You said
the Northerners.
The Northerners belong to that also?
Yeah, I mean, it's a Nigerian party, so you find people from the north, from the south, and from all around.
I guess where I'm getting at.
Okay.
Because you seen already that this type of thing happened in Egypt, and it's been happening all across the north. As one of y'all mentioned earlier, all across the north, and you see them moving down. Mm-hmm. But you also see what's going on with the AES and those countries over there. You seen they already had their insurgents, and they you
have that insurgent all over that area.
Over that area.
Yes, so, and the AES is really tackling them seriously. In fact, a few days ago or a few weeks ago, the AES released a list of Nigerian politicians whom they claim are sponsoring all these semi-military Islamic groups that keep on destroying towns and villages and killing people indiscriminately, trying to form emirates here and there.
But yeah, so I guess what I'm trying to ask is if the the AES is forming and they're actually coming about doing well, what's holding back other nations from making that move over there, especially when you have civil war going on in your country right now? Why not be trying to ally with something that's moving forward?
There's not a civil war going on in Nigeria right now.
It's not now?
No, it's not. What is going on in Nigeria is what I was talking about, is serious tribalism. People, just like my brother said, we have to start looking at each other as brothers.
Yeah.
But tribalism is not synonymous to what we are talking about.
Right.
Tribalism is looking at you as not my brother because you don't speak my language, because you don't have my culture. You're not from my tribe.
Exactly.
So that alone is a reason for me to want to kill you. If you do anything to me, that pisses me off.
Right. In the USA, we call them hoods. Or,
Yeah.
or gang wars.
You see, here in the US, when you discriminate based on race, religion, just like we talk economic, poor or richer or poor,
Right.
and stuff like that. In Africa, when you discriminate against my culture. It's not your culture. You are not from my tribe. You are poor and I'm rich. Or you don't belong to my religion. These are the way we discriminate in Africa, which is no different from the way you discriminate here in America.
Right.
It's basically similar.
Definitely similar.
So discrimination now comes in different colors and shapes. So people in the mainland Africa discriminate against each other because of language, culture, religion.
And who does all this benefit?
Of course, it doesn't benefit any of us. We know that.
It benefits the enemy.
Yes, the enemy is the one. Okay, look at this. You mentioned that I'm an engineer, which I am.
Right.
A good one for that matter.
Right, indeed.
And there are so many engineers from Nigeria that live here in the U.S. Many of them work in the field of engineering. Many of them don't. But if they come here and finish their education and go back to Africa, do you know that an engineering position comes up? You know who's going to get it? It's going to be a European, a Chinese, or Indian. Even in your own country. You know why? Because we don't believe that we can be any good. Self-hatred.
Inferiority complex.
Inferiority complex. So we believe the Chinese is better. We believe that the Indian is better. Of course, we believe that the white man is better.
Right.
And you see the irony in it.
Yes.
If there is a bidding for a construction work, if I go to Nigeria today with my qualifications and bid for that project, you can be sure the person that will get that project is going to be either European, Indian, Chinese, or Arab. So those people giving the contract are Nigerians. But they chose to give it to somebody other than their own. Mm-hmm. So what more do you want to know? How we hate each other.
Right.
So we really need to start working with each other. Yeah. Because this tribalism and fighting over another man's religion and all these reasons we fight each other, it's only making us remain where we are. We cannot progress.
I agree with that.
I think that for us, a return to greatness, right? I think we really need to look at the AES and their movement and accomplishments.
That's what I want to ask you. The end of that's my final question. The return to greatness. You go, brother. Well, Dr. Kim said last week how we always starting to read each other's minds. Basically, what she said.
That's good.
Before we get to that real quick, because we do have only about 7 minutes left. I wanted to ask what initiatives was the African Union taking, for to resolve the conflicts in places like Sudan, Congo, Nigeria, or in those type of countries. Real quick.
Not enough. They're not doing enough. And that's what I was getting to about the African Union and Agenda 2063.
Yeah.
Because, it's easy to come together and put together, beautiful, written, articulate proposals or we're going to do this, we're going to do that. We see it all the time. And then nothing ever takes place and nothing happens. And it's, continuous conflict. The AU can do something. It's do they want to do something, right? And I think that, like Dr. Walter Rodney said about the underdevelopment of Africa, right? The infrastructure. I think we need to take that seriously because, all the African presidents and prime ministers and them, they got their jets and they travel all over to Europe and anywhere else while the people suffer. In Africa, it's like 80% of the population is in poverty. right? But yet, we all know that Africa is the richest. So we have got to get serious and use our minds and work together. And we have to cut out the corruption. We have some great leaders in Africa. Shout out to economic freedom fighter, President Julius Malema, who believes in having a one Africa. The brother is powerful. They definitely don't want him to be the president of South Africa because there'll be sweeping changes, right? And then we have the brother PLO Lumumba as well, right? So we have, brothers who speak up with the knowledge. And I just think that what we have to do to stop a lot of the conflict is one thing we have to do is stop them trying to do ethnic cleansing because they're trying to kill African people, right? And we need to push the Arabs out and stop them from doing that for once and for all. And then we definitely got to stop the fratricide, killing each other for nothing. And I'm not just talking about on the motherland, I'm also talking about here in the diaspora.
Very true.
Yeah. So as you was going a while ago and I chopped you off, I cut it real quick and bad because what will it take with these challenges and to get back to the greatness?
Brother?
Well, we get both of y'all, so either way, either order.
It doesn't matter.
You go first.
Okay. Well, for us to get back to the greatness, I think we have pointed out some of the things we need to do. It starts with us loving each other.
Yes.
It starts with working together with each other and believing in ourselves.
Believing in ourselves.
That goes a long way because when you don't believe in yourself, you tend to fall prey to your enemy. We have some leaders that are coming up now, and the youths have decided, finally, because it's almost like it took a long time for the youth to stand up. For many years, we have been ruled by very, very elderly people. And I don't have anything against an elderly. My father was an elderly man, and he was brilliant.
Yes.
But there is a particular time when you get to in life, you have to step away and let the upcoming people take over. Because, there are things that you outgrow as you age. And only the youth can actually, how can a 92-year-old man be ruling over people 20 years, 40 years, 60 years after? Right. It's just not fair. Some people were born and the only president they have ever seen in their country is one man. And this one man has a particular style, and how long is he going to rule a country? You need to step away and let the youth come up. And the youth now, all over Africa, have decided that they're not going to take it anymore. They are going to have a say. And whether these elderly people or these old people realize it or not, it's either they step away in peace, or at one point the youth will get violent and take them away in pieces. So my belief is that for Africa to be great again, we first of all have to start thinking in terms of our future generations, bringing people along, developing infrastructure, developing our own health systems, our own economics, like you mentioned earlier, backed by either gold or something tangible. We have to really start creating the kind of environment we want for our families and our children in the future. Nobody is going to do it for us. So we might as well start now.
Right.
Because it's getting late.
Brother.
Yeah, yes, I think that in order for us to return to greatness, we have to have an African-centered orientation, the knowledge of self, understanding our values and principles, and we have to develop Africa, like Brother Max said, the infrastructure. We have to stop playing games and making excuses why we can't develop Africa when all the resources are in Africa. It benefits our enemies when Africa isn't developed. That's why if our great minds in Africa and in the diaspora, right, if we work together, right, and we come together, like the brother said, we have to start thinking, right? We have to think African, right? Because if we have the resources, we'll still be able to distribute the resources to the rest of the world, but we'll benefit off of the resources instead of being exploited. So, and that all starts with having an African-centered consciousness. Because consciousness is so important. Like we talked about last week, African deep thought. But to have African deep thought, we have to know who we are as a people and where we come from and the greatness of our ancestors.
Amen.
Okay.
Amen.
Right. Family, tonight's focus is agency, meaning the capacity, the power, and the responsibility to exert control over our own lives and circumstances. I'm talking about the diaspora at home and abroad, the scholars, the workers, the youths, the elders. We're not spectators on the journey.
That's right.
The path includes governance, economics, and reviving indigenous knowledge. Solutions must rise from local insight, regional cooperation, and global connections. These conversations must continue in communities, in classrooms, and most importantly, in our homes, to reaffirm that Africa's Renaissance is being built now. One ideal, one effort, one decision. Stay united and be divine. Remember, proper education always corrects error. Peace.
Peace.